Today's episode of Reset to Reinvent podcast is brought to you by the Adams Group Agency, developing final expense leaders.
Here we are with Reset to Reinvent podcast. I'm your host, Helen Blocker Adams, and I want to welcome you to episode 14. We are in the midst of incredible interviews with incredible women, all of them, all 8 of them. We're in week 3. So you've already heard 4 incredible women. And in this episode, this series of women from our consolidated planning family who have transformed, reset, reinvented themselves, sometimes multiple times, from a cocoon to a butterfly. And these extraordinary women are friends of mine. They're business partners. They are women who all have different backgrounds, but they all have a story to tell. And so our theme is butterflies in flight. And for those of you who are listening and watching, I want to make sure that you subscribe to this show, subscribe to this podcast, download it, share it, make sure that you tell a friend, because this series is an award-winning series. Okay, so if there's ever Miss Sharnetta an opportunity for me to submit a series, this is going to be the one, and we're all going to be famous. So let me welcome you to our guest here, this butterfly in flight, Sharnetta Carr. Hey, Sharnetta.
Hey, Miss Adams, how you doing today?
I am doing just wonderful, just wonderful. I'm so glad that you are here, and we're going to dive in. We're going to dive in because you're from North Philly. And you're now in the beautiful ATL. And so I want you to tell us a little bit about your journey, your butterfly journey. Talk to us.
Wow. Well, thank you first and foremost, Miss Helen. I appreciate you for just even thinking of me as one of the butterflies to be a part of the segment that you have with Reset to Reinvent podcast. But my journey started in North Philadelphia. Growing up, my parents were divorced at the age of 6. When I was 6 years old, my parents got divorced and my mother became a single mom. I grew up in the heart of North Philadelphia as a little girl, being teased for my skin color, my complexion. As you can see, in the 90s, dark skin wasn't quite in, being natural, having natural hair. So that is a part of my journey as well. That wasn't in. So it was I truly had some challenges growing up. I was extremely skinny. I was actually shy. In the first stages of my life. It wasn't
That's hard to
until,
believe.
yeah, I was shy. I was shy. I was shy all the way up into middle school, and I actually had to start fighting because I was teased all the time, constantly, for being dark. They would nickname me Charco Netta. They would say, just really cruel. Kids can be so cruel. So then I had to really, fight almost every day until I can show them. Until one day they called me Little Mike Tyson because I wasn't afraid to fight. Because I'm like, you will respect me. My name is Sharnetta, not Charco Netta, not, the little black thing or, midnight. No, it's Sharnetta, and you're going to respect me as such. So if not, you can meet me at the corner store. That was my early, right?
So you beat up some people?
I beat up some people. Can you believe it? I beat up some people. Yes, ma'am. And now I'm like the peacemaker.
Exactly. So was that did that help build what was it that got you? I mean, I know you got tired of being bullied, but was there an incident, Sharnetta, that happened that made you say, you know what, enough is enough, to build that confidence to start, kicking some tails and not take it anymore? What was that turning point for you?
Yes, the turning point for me actually was my cousin, my favorite boy cousin's sister. She and I fought because she was jealous of our relationship. And we fought at the corner store. And I was just so tired of her. Like, you're not going to call me out my name. You're not going to keep picking on me. So I'm going to stand up for myself because I didn't have anyone to stand up for me. My mother, she worked two jobs. So I was a latchkey kid. I was an only child at the time. And I said, you know what? Enough is enough. If I don't stand up for myself, nobody else is. I'm going to continue to get picked on and bullied. So I'm just tired of it. So, yes. We fought. And
Wow.
as a matter of fact,
Okay.
we fought about
So,
3 times that week until she realized, okay, she's not going to give in. Yeah. Yeah.
good for you. Good for you. So that's the North Philly in you, and that's going to
You
always
said it
be a
right.
part of you. It is there. And fast forward to 2025. Let's fast forward to 2025 with you in the insurance arena, just knocking it out of the park, doing wonderful things, traveling all over the United States. What do you think that experience growing up, being bullied, getting past that, do you think that has any bearing on the success, the confidence, the whole air of how you do this business and how you treat people? Did that have an impact on you, you think?
I do believe it did have an impact on me because it was preparing me for God's purpose in my life. God made me who I am, and I didn't know at the time that I was going to be that person that someone was dependent on because I didn't have that for me growing up. I didn't have someone to be a me and help me through this process of, just helping. So I needed that, and I needed that to be for someone else. So I think that truly helped me be who I am today. I'm trying not to cry.
Now, ah,
Mm.
no, and it's so funny. We interviewed earlier with Marcia, and she was so happy. She said, "I did not cry." She did not cry throughout the whole interview, and she could be a crybaby, right? But she did
Yes,
not
yes.
cry. Absolutely. But so when you think about the theme, okay, the theme, butterflies in flight, that is a question that I'm asking all of the ladies on this series. What crossed your mind when I told you the theme that was butterflies in flight? And then, of course, you were handpicked. You were one of the 8 women that I handpicked to be a part of this series. So, what came to your mind, and what does that even mean to you? Butterflies in flight.
When I thought about butterflies in flight, I thought about a butterfly going through the metamorphosis of, just having the challenges to keep pushing and keep moving forward one step at a time, just being able to get out of that cocoon and break free and embrace the fears and the doubts that they may have had on their limitations in the past, and just having a new sense of, liberation, of freedom, of resilience, of just being able to navigate through so many challenges and just, you know, being free and being graceful and just soaring high. That's when I thought about a butterfly in flight.
Yeah. Now, do you feel like you're flying high? Are you at a point in your life where, I mean, obviously there's just so much more for us to go and soar and make an impact and do what God has for us to do. But you mentioned earlier a few minutes ago about your purpose. You know, what do you feel like your purpose is, and does it have anything to do with the insurance business or you being a mother, or talk to us about that part of your life, Sharnetta?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad you asked that question because I truly feel like my purpose is to inspire people and just serve people.
Yeah.
Um, since I was a little child, I've always um, liked to be around older people, to be around um, older people who did not have anyone, or even if they had someone, those others did not come and visit them. So I always like to sit and chat and just brighten up their day. As a matter of fact, my nickname is Sunshine because when
Well,
and
okay. Wow.
I'm wearing yellow like you. We're wearing
Yes,
what yellow today. We're coordinated.
that's beautiful.
Yes, and I just love to serve, and it's just like, wow, is that truly my purpose? And when I was approached for about the fifth time to be an insurance agent, and I finally said yes, I said, okay, this is another way for me to serve and help people in a capacity that, it's a win-win situation for us all because I'm serving, helping people on the worst day of their life, and I'm also getting compensated, and I'm able to do it for myself. Being an entrepreneur, I don't have to answer to anyone's clock. A 9 to 5 may be good for some, but for me and my family, it just wasn't conducive.
And
Yeah.
so, what would you say for someone who's a little queasy about becoming an entrepreneur and working in a 1099 type of situation? What would you say? What would be an encouraging word for someone, male, female, young, older, about making that step? Because you haven't always been an entrepreneur. Have you worked in corporate America at some point in your life?
Absolutely, I did. I worked in
Mhm.
corporate America. I got my master's in business administration. I called myself climbing the corporate ladder. I worked for a Fortune
Okay.
500 company. I worked for a Fortune 500 company. I never even saw myself actually being an entrepreneur, but I knew I wanted more out of life. There was times when I would apply and go on interviews and sit around about 10 people interviewing me and
Uh-huh.
didn't get the position. Okay.
Wow.
And I had the qualifications, but I didn't have the, qualifications,
Okay. Gotcha.
completion for the right.
Yeah.
So working for a company after 9 years, giving my blood, sweat, and tears, and then they decide that they're going to ship our jobs overseas, it really opened my eyes. And at the
Mm.
time, I was married, and I told my husband, I said, you know what? I don't think corporate America is for me. I think I want to look at something else. And we used to host a lot of parties at our house, and so he said, okay, well, maybe we should, open up a restaurant slash club. And that's what we did until we got divorced. So that's another journey that I
Mm.
had to endure.
And
That's a
where,
part of that phase.
oh yes, that face. So where was the restaurant slash bar? Where was this located?
Right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, in a place called
Oh,
South Carolina. Mm-hmm.
okay. Okay. What was the
Doc's
name of it?
Caribbean Bar. Doc's Caribbean Bar and Grill. They can
Oh wow.
still find us. We're still searchable on Facebook, Doc's Caribbean Bar and Grill. It was located on Cherry Road, a main street in Rock Hill, South Carolina, right off of
Hmm.
Cherry Road in Mount Gallant. The sign
How
is
about
actually
that?
still there, surprisingly, that no one has ever tried to reopen that restaurant or make something else out of it after 8 years now. It's been about 8 years. Mm-hmm.
Oh, about that. Well, certainly having a restaurant, that's hard manual labor as compared.
And it was.
Yeah, as compared to final expense specialist. So, so you got approached 5+ times about becoming a final expense specialist. Corporate America didn't treat you very kind. You decided to
Mm-mm.
put on an entrepreneurial hat and start a restaurant. Now, obviously, either you or your ex-husband was had a culinary flair. Which one was it?
My ex-husband, he's from the
Oh,
Bahamas, so he's Caribbean.
okay,
Hmm.
okay, okay. So wow. So I would imagine you were the wing woman, the promoter, the marketer,
Absolutely.
greet the guests when they come in, make sure that they were good because that's your personality.
Absolutely. And that's another part of serving. I
Yes.
love to see people smile. I love to make people happy. And just, because life is hard
Yeah.
enough as it is,
Yeah. 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 So tell us about the transition of now that you're in Atlanta, the Atlanta area, and how you have managed to navigate through, divorce, raising your beautiful folks. I know you can't see a picture of her, but she has got the prettiest, prettiest little young lady named London, and and you're kind of in Atlanta, kind of by yourself. It's you in London, and maybe your business friends. So how are you? That's got to be a scary situation. Someone listening is like, I would have rather just stayed married and lived whatever. But there was something that made you say, you know what? No, I'm gonna step out in the deep and I, what talk to us about that. How have you been able to do that? How are you navigating through all of that, Sharnetta?
Well,
That's pretty
it
amazing.
definitely wasn't easy. It definitely wasn't easy. And I thank you for saying that. And I remember hearing a saying a while ago, nothing changes if nothing changes. And I want my daughter to have such a much better life than I had. I want her to have at least 10 times better of a life than I had.
Yeah.
And I know for me, being confined to a 9 to 5, um, not having that flexibility and the freedom to go when I want to go where I want to go, when I want to go.
Mhm.
I had this company with CPA, and just being in the industry has given me the opportunity to be flexible because I was homeschooling my daughter for 4 years. If it
Mm.
wasn't for this opportunity, I wouldn't have been able to do that. At least I don't think I would have. And still have some finances to be able to travel the world. In 2 weeks, I'll be able to take my daughter on an 8-day cruise. 8 day, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
8 days.
Oh,
Yes. Yes, so she and I
I am
will be
so
going on
jealous.
a cruise.
I'm so jealous.
I'm truly thankful and grateful. You actually are one of the ones that paved the way. So I'm just trying to follow your footsteps. I'm following everything that I see successful people do so that I can have the things that successful people have. So, yes. It hasn't been easy, but if you follow the system and if you have leadership and mentorship and guidance, ladies and gentlemen, you can definitely do this business. You can do this industry. It'll be 5 years. I can't believe time is flying by
Wow.
so fast. It will be 5 years that I got my insurance license, the end of October 2020. And I wrote my first policy in November. I was scared. I was shaking like a leaf. You know, I really didn't think this was for me. Even after writing my first policy, I sat for a
Why?
year.
Why is that? Why didn't you
I
think it was for you, even after writing your first policy and making a nice commission?
Yes, I guess I still in the back of my head said, okay, I don't know if people are going to take me seriously, because once I left out of corporate America, I actually tried a network marketing, and this is definitely not network marketing,
Right.
but I tried a network marketing business, and then that didn't work as well. And then I got into the restaurant industry, and that didn't work because of me going through a divorce. So not necessarily because the business didn't work, but it was grueling running a restaurant. I mean, hours, 7 days a week.
Mm,
We were working, whether we were preparing the food or having to go shopping and
right.
keeping the club, everything. It just took too much time. You could not take any days off, no
Mm,
days. So
wow.
yes, this is definitely a change, definitely easier. And every day is not going to be easy, but this is definitely different. And I'm glad I made that leap into the industry. Hmm.
And so you're the industry of insurance has given you time freedom,
Yes,
independence, the ability to be able to raise your daughter and do some fun things like go on an 8-day cruise, and not be in a situation where you have to tell your daughter, well, maybe next year or
next time.
maybe the
Yep.
year after, because
Hmm.
that's one thing about being an entrepreneur. If you follow the system that we have here with CPA, and you say, okay, I want to make $10,000 this month, you know how to crunch the numbers, X number of policies, X number of people to see, and be able to do it.
Do
Okay.
it.
As opposed to
Exactly.
on a job, if your salary is 6,000 a month, that's all you're going to get.
Yeah.
Unless maybe you can get some overtime, and a lot of jobs don't have overtime. So that's the
No.
beauty of entrepreneurship. So for someone out there that's even thinking about going into the business, going into entrepreneurship, what advice would you give them?
I want to let them know that their past does not define their future. God's grace does, and they can do this. You just got to believe. And I know a lot of us are spiritual, and we may have heard the phrase that you just got to have the faith of a mustard seed. That, and we all know how tiny a mustard seed is, right?
Yes,
So you got
yes.
to have that faith. You got to believe, as long as you have right guidance and mentorship on people that are willing to lock arms with you and guide you through this industry, you're going to do well. So yes, people can also, if you go on YouTube, I have a YouTube channel, Destined the number 4 Success. So if you can follow me on YouTube, I greatly appreciate it. And you'll see some of my interviews and stories. Yes. So Destined the number 4 in Success.
Oh,
Sharnetta.
yeah. That is awesome. Then, of course, people want to get a chance to hear this particular interview, and I'm sure she'll probably be adding it to her YouTube channel so that you'll be able to hear it forever and ever. Amen. So,
Amen.
yes, so as we wrap up, Sharnetta, is there anything else that you would like to be able to share, as it relates to resetting and reinventing, as it relates to butterflies in flight? Is there anything else that, as one of our butterflies in flight on this week 3, episode 14 of Reset to Reinvent, is there anything else that you want our listeners, our family out there to hear from you as something that's encouraging? Anything else on your heart?
Yes. So I just want you to know that doors may close, but others are opening. You never know what God has in store for your life and your purpose, ladies and gentlemen. Just, I want to encourage you to be resilient and just continue to just go through this journey, because someone somewhere out there is counting on you. I always like to say that, because it's true. You just never know that next person that you're going to meet, the next person that's going to talk to you, the next person that comes within 6 feet of you. You're 6 feet away from gold, okay? To change your family's life and the lives of the person's life that you're meeting. So I encourage you, I want to inspire you to continue to be bold and walk in the purpose that God has planned for you.
Oh, thank you so much, Charletta. Charnetta has been our butterflies in flight on this episode of Reset to Reinvent podcast. And I want to thank you so much for joining us and being a part of this journey. And who knows what the future holds, but I might tell you what, I'm definitely, and by the way, you all, she is a part of our podcast team for Reset to Reinvent as well, just in case you didn't know. And I'm just real excited about the future. Thank you so much, Charnetta. You have been wonderful. Thank you for being one of our butterflies in flight.
Thank you for allowing me to soar and being authentic and genuine, Miss Helen. So I thank you and I appreciate you for all that you do. Because of this, you're helping me to get out of that cocoon. So thank
Oh,
you for allowing that butterfly.
you are so welcome. You're so welcome. All right. Until next time, we'll see you next time on Reset to Reinvent podcast.
Today's episode of Reset to Reinvent podcast is brought to you by Consolidated Planning of America. We help people with insurance.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the second half of the final episode 15 series of Butterflies in Flight on Reset to Reinvent podcast. I so hope that you have been enjoying this series just as much as I have been interviewing. Of course, we just finished up with Amanda Muhammad, and she was just has an amazing story from the coal mines of West Virginia. And it's just so glad to be able to share with some of my just incredible business partners in the insurance industry with Consolidated Planning of America. We have one more butterfly, ladies and gents, and I am so pleased to hey, saving the best for last. This young lady here, Kenya Smith, is from the area of South Carolina. I'm going to let her share a little bit about herself. I do know that she has several children. She's got one husband. She has, I think, with 3 children that recently graduated from high school and or college in the same year, in the same month, within a month time, which is phenomenal. And of course, if you're looking at her on YouTube, you'll see, now, wait a minute, she's got 3 kids that did what? So I'm going to welcome Kenya. Welcome to Reset to Reinvent podcast. I'm so happy to have you.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
All right. So tell us, Kenya, a little bit about yourself. Talk to us a little bit about who Kenya Smith is and where you're from, who you are, and anything you want us to know.
Well, I am originally from Columbia, South Carolina. I was born here. My dad was in the Navy, so we moved around for a long time. I have a brother. Both my parents are deceased now. But we moved back to South Carolina in 1990. So I finished my last year of high school here. And I've been here ever since. I got married. He wasn't my high school sweetheart, but I did know him in high school, Armando. We got married in 2002. And we had, I married into, I had 3 bonus kids when I got married. And then went on to have 2. My bonus daughter, Ariana, she graduated May 9th. My oldest daughter, Kiana, graduated May 10th, both from college. And then my baby girl graduated from high school on the 19th. Whew. So
Wow. So did you have one big party for everyone, or did everybody want to have their individual parties?
We're actually having that one big party this coming Saturday evening, so I'll be in Augusta. But yeah, I was surprised they did want to have it all together. So.
Oh, how about that?
Mm-hmm.
How about that? Oh, goody. So, Kenya, this whole series has been about butterflies. It's been about women, business partners of mine, friends of mine. You have become just a dear friend, and you are a butterfly. And when me and my producer came up with the name of the series, Butterflies in Flight, share with me, and I've done this with everybody else. When you think about butterflies in flight, what comes to your mind? What comes to your mind when you think of and hear butterflies in flight?
Well, I've shared this with you. I love butterflies. I collect them. And I started because my grandmother collected them. And when she passed, I just liked them. So I got a lot of her collectibles, and I've just liked them ever since. And as I got older, I did think of butterflies more as, freedom, because when they're in the caterpillar, then they, get their wings. But ever since you started talking about this podcast and you broke it down, I think it was as episode 12.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it made me think. I started tearing up because it was a new meaning, happy tears, just learning things about myself that the butterfly, the caterpillar, all that the caterpillar does. But each stage of my life, or even when I'm doing something different, I've transformed, I reinvented myself, and I got prepared for my next flight, my next journey. So that just really resonated with me, and it just had me thinking. Thank you for that, Helen.
Oh, you're welcome. And I mean, when you think about, I tell you, when I did my research on the four stages of the butterfly and what they go through, and when you think about your reset or transformational parts in your life, which one, and I'm sure you probably have many, because one thing about this series, we're talking about challenges and adversities that we have gone through, and everybody has a different story. So is there one that really resonates with you the most in terms of that reset and reinvent and that transformation and that cocoon to a butterfly that you had to experience? Is there one that stands out more than another?
I think maybe when my mom passed,
Mm.
because going through that, it's not right.
Mm.
Going through that journey, it takes a toll on you, and a lot of times you don't realize it, and it affects other people. But I think trying to reinvent myself as life without her, and then getting back into my insurance business, so I had to reinvent, refocus, and just that would be when my mom passed, and getting back into the swing of things, back on track with my insurance business.
Speaking of insurance,
Yeah.
what made you get into the insurance business in the first place? Because most of us, it kind of picked us or chose us, because most people don't just wake up, one day and say, you know what, oh, I'm going to go into the insurance industry. So what got you into the insurance industry, Kenya?
Armando Smith. Hey, he's been in insurance. Well, he's been in a lot of things for a long time. But he would talk to me about doing insurance, but I always would hear him fuss about chargebacks and all that stuff. And then he met Dr. Burns, and he did not believe Dr. Burns when he was saying about the chargebacks going up front. And so once he started going to meetings and getting to know him, I saw him getting excited about it. And when I went to my first meeting, everybody was like rooting for everybody. It was like a family. I just felt welcome. Everybody was not out for themselves. They're really passionate about what they were doing. They want everybody to succeed. And so that made me take another look at it. And I had tried for my license a lot of times, years, but I didn't want to do it for me. I had to want to do it. I was doing it because he wanted me to.
Right.
But when I saw the excitement in him and I met everybody, that made me want to get it. And as I got deeper into it, seeing the success that I could have and the money I could make, and especially the families that I could help, that really prompted me, because it's a lot of people out there that aren't educated, and it's not necessarily their own fault. It's just some people, they just don't talk about it, so they don't know about it.
Right. So how important is it for a person I mean, we always like to have encouragement, whether it's from our spouse or our children, but from an internal personal perspective, how important is it for you or anybody to make up their own mind for them to be able to move into another career area? How important is that, Kenya?
It's important because if you're not doing it for yourself, you probably won't know the potential or the success that you could have, because some people might be into whatever they're doing, but they're resenting, I don't really want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. But you have to want to do it because that way your passion, your excitement, and if you're not doing it because you like it, people are going to see that. You're going to take that with you, and nobody's going to really work with you if they see that you're not wanting to, you're not really showing how much fun or, how much success you can have.
Right. So that lack of authenticity will be pretty clear if you're following somebody else's dream.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 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 So tell me, what did you do before you got into the insurance industry? Tell us a little bit about your background from a career perspective.
I mostly did administrative work, which I do love, and I do it now. But it was office manager. That's pretty much it. I only really had maybe 3 jobs, because when I get a job, I stick to it. And I think that was another transition that was hard, challenging, going from a job to being my own, working on my own. It's the
Hmm.
mindset and just untraining yourself from different things and focusing, putting some of that stuff to your own business. But I worked in a classroom. I was a kindergarten TA, which I loved.
Oh.
The money wasn't good. So I decided, and I got my insurance license July of 2019. So I'll be going on 6 years next month.
Yeah.
But I had my license, but I'm really doing much with it. On the end of, I think it was 2020, I turned in my resignation after Christmas break. I wasn't going back to the classroom. I was going to do insurance full time. All excited, and then guess what happened? COVID.
COVID.
And being new, and we didn't have all the tools that we have now to do telesales. And at that point, we weren't really trying to go out. It was not really working out. So I took a temporary job with unemployment during COVID. And that right there showed me that I do not want to go back on anybody's job ever again.
Ah.
It was, I enjoyed it, but I didn't. It was hard listening to a lot of the people, their stories about unemployment, that they needed the money and just all the other kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
that's what I did. And then I left there and came back to CPA full time.
Now, there are a lot of people who are listening or watching, and they have a full time job or they have a part time job, and they're considering a career in the insurance industry or any other kind of industry. So, when you mentioned earlier that there were some steps, the mindset of going from a job where you're clocking in and clocking out and you're almost like a robot per se, but then the big difference of being on your own and not having to the discipline is different. So tell us, what are some of the strategies or some of the things that you had to do mentally and physically to go from a job where you're going in Monday through Friday, and then now you got 24 hours a day to kind of do whatever you want in your own business.
The biggest thing is, and we say it all the time, you have to work your business like you did the job. Yes, you have the flexibility because you're your own boss, but you still have to treat it, because you know how we'll be at home, maybe, okay, I'll go out at such time. By the time that day goes by just like that, and you haven't completed anything. So having a schedule, being consistent, keeping to it, that's important, because you can get sidetracked, and if you're not disciplined enough to reel yourself back in, then you can get off course.
Yeah, especially one thing about our business, we don't have to have an office somewhere. Our
Mm-hmm.
office can be in our home. Our office can be part dining room table, bedroom, because the main thing we need is a computer, a telephone, a internet connectivity, and we're pretty much in business, right? So
Yep.
we could be in any place in our home. And so if we're at home versus being at a job,
Yep.
there's dishes in the sink, there's
Mm-hmm.
clothes to be washed,
Yep. Yep.
there's telephone ringing, and a family member that's
Mm-hmm.
calling. So that's what you meant by you've got to treat your business like you were on your job.
Right. Right. Because, like you said, the clothes, I'm just throw these clothes in here, and yeah, that stuff will add up. And then it takes you up, you're mentally, you're off track. You're not focused. It's not always, for me, it's not easy to transition from just like that. So I just try to stick to, that.
What would you say is one of the biggest challenges? Oh, okay. So women are killing it in the insurance industry. It used to be primarily white male dominated back in the day for years and years, and it's still male dominated. But more and more women are getting into the insurance industry and having a lot of success. And obviously, I have displayed that with you, one of 8 of our butterflies in flight. So what would you say is one or more of the biggest challenges that women may have in the insurance industry, if at all, if there's any challenges at all?
I think for me, and I think as women, especially if balance, trying to
Balance.
balance everything out, and remembering that you because you might get so focused at work, but you're still a wife, you're still a mother, you're still, you still have all these other things. You got to prioritize, and also let the people in your life know, well, this is what I'm doing now. Call me at this certain time, or I can't make that meeting at church now, but I'll get some notes, but I might make the other. You have to prioritize, and maybe just rotate. Don't try to spread yourself too thin, because that's not good for your health, and it's not good to the your family, because if you're not good, they're not going to be good.
Yeah. Oh,
Hmm.
that's very good advice. Balance. And I think because we as women, we think we can do it all. And you're right, we can get and actually we can do it all. But the fact of the matter is we're going to burn ourselves out. And then of course, if you don't get and it sounds like your whole family is involved. Speaking of family, don't you have some children that have insurance licenses too?
I do. My daughter, she just turned 22 Tuesday. She has her insurance license. Yep. So
That
now
is one.
she's already said, getting out of college, trying to find a job in her major, but she's still wanting to. She hasn't started yet. We're working on schedule for her to do her insurance part time as well.
Oh, that's good.
Mhm.
Working on a schedule.
Yeah.
So that schedule, the discipline, the idea of having balance, all of those go hand in hand, don't they?
And you also need to take care of yourself. We've learned that too. We need to take our vitamins, especially we're going out into people's homes. We don't want to get sick. We don't want them to get sick either. So we need to build up our immune system. And I think another challenge for me, especially when going out in the field, is some of us might have ailments like arthritis. So a lot of times I might have to stretch, especially if we're driving further out. So when I went to telesales, that was one of the benefits for me, that I wasn't in the car for that long. But now I do like doing the telesales and going in the field. So
Mm.
best of both worlds.
Best of both
Mhm.
worlds. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Kenya, I would like for you to also, when we talk about reset to reinvent, and that is the name of this podcast, is there anything that comes to mind that you would like to be able to share in these final minutes with our audience about maybe what reset to reinvent means to you, or anything that maybe that I haven't asked you that you want to make sure that you let our audience know to encourage them out there.
I think, and I want to go back also, back in May when you were doing mental health, I think that plays a part in anything that we do. We need
Oh,
to take care of our mental health, and we may not think that we need it. I actually think that we should go talk to, just like we get annual checkups.
uh-huh.
At least we get an annual mental health checkup, if not monthly, because that goes a long way with your work and with your health, with your family, and all that stuff. But I would encourage people, we need to take care of ourselves so that we are mentally focused, to know that we are, sometimes when we're transitioning, it might feel negative sometimes because we're going through a change, but we're just transitioning. When we get to that butterfly stage, we need to be, mentally able to handle that so we can
Mm,
fly, take our flight,
mm.
butterfly. But yes,
So what would that's fascinating, Kenya. What would a mental health, let's just say, and we for our cars, we have to get a regular tune-up. We get regular getting your tires rotated, regular annual health checkup. But the idea of having an annual mental
mm-hmm.
health checkup, what does that look like?
I think because a lot of times you don't really have to have mental challenges that something serious, but sometimes we just have all these emotions or feelings and stuff we're dealing with, and we don't know what to do with them.
Mm.
Going to get a mental health checkup will give you the tools to be able to, be better mentally or emotionally, so that you're not holding all that stuff in or taking it out on other people, because I think your heart and your mind, that's what's going to keep you going. Well, your
That
physical.
is some great advice, and I've and I know you heard and listened to the series that I had on mental health, and how I even got interested in that whole industry area, because it is important. And you're right, when we think about the way we like to go 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 go, but that's fine and good, but if we're not taking care of ourselves, then our body is going to shut down.
And people need to know it's okay. It's okay to go see a therapist. That's not talked about a lot. People, especially in certain communities, it's shunned upon. But like you said, it's important. We do go, especially some of us women. That's all we know. Even, well, some men too, because my husband goes. You, it's just because that's what you're used to doing.
Right.
And it's sometimes if we don't slow down, and then having people like you and other people, my other CPA family, we all encourage each other and look out for each other. So have good people in your circle, good
Yeah.
people in your circle.
People in your circle, absolutely. And that's what we've been able to do. I hand selected you and the other ladies, and certainly that we have a lot of superstars and butterflies with our CPA, and we may do something later on, but there's something special about this one. And then when we think of the word eight, the number eight, it means new beginnings, it means transformation. And the idea of doing something really special in this particular series meant a lot to me. Okay.
It meant a lot that you asked.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And so as we wrap up episode 15, as we wrap up the month of June, I want to thank you.
You're welcome.
Uh, I want to thank you. I'm glad this is happening at the end. Hold
Well, I
tight.
thank you for all that you do, my precious Helen Blocker Adams.
Thank you so much, Kenya. I want to thank you so much for joining us and being one of our 8 butterflies in flight. And ladies and gent family, I want you to make sure that If you missed the other episodes during this month of June, I want you to go back and listen to them all from the very first. You got to hear the first one because it sets the stage. If you want to hear encouragement, if you want to hear from some women, and these are real live women, they're not movie stars. They're not on the 6 o'clock news. They haven't done anything bad. They are just regular women who have incredible stories, and they are butterflies. They are butterflies in flight. And I just want to thank you again, Kenya, for joining us. And I want to thank you, my Reset to Reinvent podcast family. Make sure that you subscribe, like, and download this episode and all of our episodes. Make sure that you go down to our footers and support this podcast. Go to our stand store and buy some of our books that's on the stand store. And in the meantime, I want you to have a wonderful day. I hope you've had a wonderful month of June. And we look forward to the month of July as we have more fun things lined up for you for July on Reset to Reinvent. Once again, Kenya, thank you so much for joining me. And this has just been an exciting series of butterflies in flight. And I want you and you and you to have a wonderful day. Why? Because you deserve to be inspired. Peace.
Reset to Reinvent podcast. We are living in uncertain times. Job security is becoming more elusive. People are losing their jobs. Companies are closing. But wait, have you ever considered a career as an insurance agent? Just a thought. Our much talked about ebook, 8 Reasons to Become a Life Insurance Agent, can help you decide if it's for you or not. Order your copy today. Visit our website, Reset to Reinvent, and click on the Reinvent store. Who knows? It may be the best decision you've made in a long time.